Good afternoon and welcome to the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization on this beautiful March 14th, 2019 day. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, under public comments, if there's anybody that would like to sign up, please sign up right over here, and we'll take your comments on either general or on any line item that we have on our agenda. So let's start with 3 reports. It's the Executive Director's Report. Ms. Georgiana.
All right, good afternoon. On page 2 of your agenda package, you have the updated status of projects, and you will see that Chelsea has created a map for all of our active projects. So this is just really a tool that we created to keep everyone informed on projects that either the TPO is doing or their active FDOT projects. On page 8 is the weekly MPOAC legislative update. Carl McKiska, the Executive Director of the MPOAC, does a fantastic job monitoring transportation-related legislation on behalf of the 27 MPOs in Florida. So if there are any bills shown in the newsletter that you want additional information on, or if you're concerned about a particular bill, please let me know. Carl is more than willing to reach out to the bill sponsor and share your concerns or your ideas on that. On page 17, you have the Central Florida MPO Alliance meeting highlights from the February 15th meeting. There's also links to the various presentations that were given at the meeting. Terry with Space Coast Area Transit gave the transit report on Monday's TAC-CAC, and some of the things that he reported on, the recent fixed route ridership, above 7% increase over the January 2018 figures, and almost a 0.5% year-to-date increase over the prior year-to-date ridership, which is very good. Increase in demand response. The paratransit service prompted the authorization of the addition of 2 new routes by the Board of County Commissioners to accommodate that demand. And then also the TPO and the transit staff. We are continuing meeting with the cities and the local municipalities to plan on how to address the items highlighted in the ADA bus stop assessment that was reported a few months ago. And so we're getting a lot of really good responses. You know, we have a report and there's a lot of issues, so now we need to work together on how to fix those issues, and that's what we're doing now to come up with a plan on how to do that. Also, I wanted to let you know we've issued our annual call for projects, so any new transportation projects not already on the priority list, you need to submit those to us by April the 16th if you are interested in state or federal funding. So it's something to think about. Of course, we're working with your staff. We have a transportation subcommittee that's going to be meeting here in about a month, or actually about a month and a half. But be thinking about that, any new projects on the horizon that you want state and federal funding. And then I want to give a quick update on the 528 design and the flushing study discussion that took place last month. DOT has not received a response back from Dr. Zarillo on the clarifications and the questions on the flushing study, but there were quite a few, and it's going to take him some time to work through those questions. DOT is actively reviewing several environmental projects with St. Johns River Water Management, so they hope to present soon which projects could be permitted and move forward to compensate for the impacts of the widening project that they believe could improve water quality in the lagoon. So it'll be interesting to hear what they have to present and what those projects are about. So we've prepared the 528 resolution that is under consent in your agenda package, and we tried to be very specific and clear as to what the DOT is currently doing in their evaluation of projects that would benefit the lagoon and what we need to be able to make an informed decision as a board on the future of the 528 widening project. So lastly, did want to mention there is a date correction on the front page of the agenda. I want to bring to your attention, the next TAC-CAC meeting is April the 8th, and the board meeting is April the 11th, and so we apologize for that. The dates got mixed up. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. Before I go on to B, a little bird told me it was somebody's birthday, Paul Googleman. So we want to wish Paul Googleman happy birthday.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
All right. Item B, the Technical Advisory Committee, TAC, and Citizens Advisory Committee, CAC. Georgiana.
The TAC-CAC committee met on Monday, and you have before you a summary of actions on the handout at your place. The TAC-CAC recommended that the TPO approve the minutes from the February 11th TAC-CAC meeting. They also approved Resolution 19-15, which is the 528 improvements beneficial to the Indian River Lagoon, and they also approved the Regional Resiliency Action Plan.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. I'll need a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the TAC-CAC meeting minutes of February 11, 2019.
So move.
All right.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Ms. Minus, second by Commissioner Allender. Discussion? Seeing none?
Madam Chair?
Yeah,
Just
Ms.
to-
Koss.
You're talking about the February 14th minutes?
I have
You're referring to-
February 11th.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
the,
I'm sorry, it's my confusion.
okay, all right, no problem. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right, item 3C is
Oh, I
the
see.
Bicycle Pedestrian Trail Advisory Committee report, and that's Kim Smith.
Good afternoon. The Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee last met on January 28th. You have those minutes in your packet, so you can review those. And we will meet again on the 25th of March here, coming just in a couple weeks now. There is something else that we would like to talk to you about. We're coming off the heels of the Dangerous Design by Design report, which obviously did not present Brevard County in a very good light for bicyclists and well, that one was specifically pedestrians. And while we can argue all day about the methodology, about how they get their rankings, we know we have a problem. We're at a time where last year, all traffic deaths of all kinds were down 6%, but pedestrian fatalities were up 35%. That's nationwide. You know, and people ask why. Well, distracted driving, speeds, more traffic, and there's also a lot of programs going on that are encouraging people to walk and bike. A lot of you are involved in the Mayor's Fitness Challenge and things like that, where we're encouraging people to live a healthier lifestyle, but you're asking them to go out into a system that wasn't designed with their safety as equal as the motor vehicles. So, and just to let you know some I guess, cold hard facts about Brevard County. As of today, we sit with 13 crashes that involve fatalities, and in those 13 crashes, there were a total of 14 fatalities, 7 of which were a bicyclist or a pedestrian. That's 50% of our traffic fatalities today has been a bicyclist or a pedestrian, and just to put that into some perspective, the national average typically runs around 16%. So we're not off to a good start. So the TPO wants to do something about it. You know, we're tired of seeing these numbers, and we're going to need help. So we're going to be putting together a campaign that we'll roll out to you later that we would really like to work with all of you to see if we can change these numbers. But it's going to center around the idea of Vision Zero. And many of you may have heard about Vision Zero. It's the idea that the only acceptable number of traffic fatalities is 0. You know, that you can't say, oh, well, we know we're going to have a few, because that's just not a good way to look at it. So, how is Vision Zero different than what we're doing now? So what we're doing now, we're kind of saying, we're going to have some traffic deaths, and we're okay with that. Vision Zero says we're not okay with that. We're designing roads assuming that everybody is going to do the right thing, travel the right speed, stop at stoplights, do everything that they're supposed to do, and Vision Zero looks at it, well, we might have some failures, people aren't always going to do what they're supposed to do, so you take that into account. The traditional approach right now is to prevent collisions. Vision Zero says let's prevent fatal and severe injuries. The traditional approach now that we're using now, everybody kind of does their own thing. Vision Zero says let's all of us put our heads together, enforcement, engineering, and let's come up with an approach that works. And then at the very bottom line, right now, we just say, hey, it's too expensive to put in this pedestrian feature or bicycle feature. And of course, in Vision Zero, you don't look at it that way. You say, whatever cost we have to spend, we're going to make sure everybody's safe on our roadway. So I know that Director Gillette wants to say a few comments on this, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Well, thanks, Kim. If you remember, we chose to support the DOT safety performance measure of Vision Zero and adopt it as our own last year. So that means that our long-range transportation plan and our transportation improvement plan, our TIP, should be developed with this in mind. So we have to plan and program projects and programs that's going to get us to zero fatalities. So it's really a strategic approach to connect the investments with the policy decisions to achieve our performance measures. Quite frankly, we've been doing this for many years. This isn't new. And we do it through engineering, education, and enforcement. It's a three-pronged approach, and it's a very complex, complicated way to try to get there, but we have to just try and do as much as we can. But over the coming months, we will be developing a safety campaign, and Kim is going to head it off. We feel like we need to kind of kick this in a higher gear, so to speak, and more details are to come. And Kim has just a 1-minute video that will talk about Vision Zero and explain it in a way that our words really can't explain.
Yes, I think that this will drive it home for everybody. We sit up here, we talk about a lot of stats, but watch this video and maybe that'll change your mind.
Yeah, we had a power surge for the
Oh, yeah, we did.
roads. What do you think would be a more acceptable number?
Acceptable? 70 maybe? Probably 70.
Can you send 70? Actually, this is what 70 people looks like.
It's my family.
So now, what do you think would be a more acceptable number?
0. 0.
That's pretty powerful.
Yes.
So thank you, Kim. We appreciate that.
So, Kim, are we working with, I guess, so we're going to start working with law enforcement, all the agencies, cities, and
We're going to need
county?
everybody. So yes,
Okay.
we'll be working with law enforcement, continuing our programs through the schools. It's going to go all the way down to engineering, and of course, you, the elected officials, we need you to buy into this and believe it as well,
Yeah.
because you have the power to make decisions that encourage change.
Yes, because every time somebody gets hit on a bicycle or a pedestrian is killed, it just really breaks my heart. It really hits home. So thank you, Kim. All right, 3D, the Florida Department of Transportation, Jamie, and welcome with DOT.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Jamie Kersey with the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm just going to give you some updates on 3 of the projects that are going on in your area. First, the The Miko Road project, I misquoted myself at the TCCAC meeting when I said all these projects were on schedule and on budget. This particular one is behind schedule due to unforeseen circumstances, but its estimated completion date will be late summer of this year. And for the Ellis Road project, this project is still on schedule, and it should be completed by early 2021. The team is looking to begin at extending detour of the intersection of John Rhodes Boulevard and Ellis Road in late May or early June. And for the Vieira Boulevard, the intersection ramps are tentatively scheduled to open the beginning of April. And this project is on schedule. And everything else is on schedule and on budget.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Any questions for Jamie? All right.
And I'm going to introduce Libertad. She's with our multimodal group, and
Okay.
she just wants to present some things.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Libertad Acosta Anderson, and I'm in the District 5 Transit. And I appreciate you giving me this opportunity for the department to publicly recognize two outstanding agencies, the Space Area Space Area Transit and the Space Coast TPO. Those are two agencies that demonstrate great synergy working together, but they also have been an invaluable partner with us, celebrating Mobility Week since its inception in 2016. Mobility Week is an effort to leverage partners' resources so that we can promote multimodal transportation or transportation choices, and we also promote safety. And the TPO and the Space Area Transit have been with us there since the beginning. I don't want to take a whole lot of your time. I want to invite other municipalities and cities to join us this year. It's from October 25th to November 1st. You have information in your packets that talk about Mobility Week. It's a flyer that has a green sort of, that flyer with a green heading there. And please join us. And if you have a opportunity, I would like to recognize them individually and then maybe take a picture.
Sure.
That'd be awesome. So if, Georgiana, would you like to receive for the space?
Very good.
Thank you so much. It says, leading by example. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. I have something for your staff too. I could not forget. Oh, Vicky, yes.
Oh.
Vicky, there, the trenches. And then if the Space Coast Area Transit would like to come over.
Yes. Nice.
We're going to thank everybody. They worked for it too. Leading by example. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very good. Item 4 is consent agenda. Ms. Georgiana?
All right, we'll read the consent agenda, and you can consider adopting these actions by one motion, and we do have an add-on. 4A is the approval of the TPO board minutes of February the 14th, 2019. 4B, approval of the committee appointments. One add-on from the South Beaches Coalition is at your place. 4C is acceptance of the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2018 audit. 4D, approval of Resolution 19-15. It's the State Road 528 improvements beneficial to the Indian River Lagoon. 4E, approval of Resolution 19-17 and 19-18, recognition of members' service. There was a slight revision on the item sheet, and this is also at your place. And then 4F, approval of the renewal of legal services agreement with Mr. Paul Gugelman, who is the attorney for the Space Coast TPO.
All right, thank you, Georgiana. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
I was,
Ms. Cos.
I just noted that I was not on the attendance list for February 14th.
Okay.
So,
All right,
and
so
again, I'm
noted.
sorry I was late for that meeting, so it's my own fault.
Okay, no problem. All
We
right.
will correct that,
Yes,
thank you.
we'll make the correction. It happens. All right, so I need a motion for approval on the consent agenda, items A through F.
Madam Chair, Randalls will make the motion to approve it, the consent agenda for A through F.
Second.
All right, we had an add-on.
With the add-on.
With the add-on,
With
correct?
the add-on.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
hold.
All right. So I have a motion for approval of the item 4A through F with add-ons by Rocky Randalls and Mayor Johnson. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Now
And
we-
I
I'm
did
sorry.
want to just quickly mention the member recognition. We have 2 TPO board members in the 2018 calendar year I'd like to recognize for perfect attendance. And of course, that was Council Member Rocky Randalls and Council Member Andrea Young. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
If Paul don't get a cake for his birthday, I guess we don't expect nothing either.
Well, I have a beautiful certificate here, and we're going to get our picture taken after the meeting. And then also, Resolution 19-17 is a service award for Commissioner Jerry Allender for achieving 4 consecutive years between 2015 and 2018 with over 85% confirmed attendance.
Yeah,
So thank you
very good.
very much
Thank
for
you.
your service.
All right. So after the meeting, don't go away. We have
Right.
pictures.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Item 5, action item, and that will be Sarah Crum.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have nowhere to set my stuff. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Crom. I'm the Multimodal Program Specialist with the Space Coast TPO. I will be presenting the Regional Resiliency Action Plan for your approval of the resolution. So I know several of you were involved in the drafting of the Regional Resiliency Action Plan, as well as also the City of Cocoa has already adopted it. But I wanted to provide a brief history, overview, and next steps so that we understood what this means. It's not clicking. Sorry, I apologize. I'm clicking the wrong keyboard. All right, so the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, or as we call it, FAST Act, is one of the guiding documents that TPOs work under. And, ooh, there we go, all right. And basically, it has a requirement that in our planning practices, we must consider resiliency of the transportation system. So things like incorporating resiliency into our long-range transportation plan, our TIP, or transportation improvement plan, and also while we're looking at projects, focusing on reducing the vulnerability of the existing infrastructure, as well as building a more resilient new infrastructure. I feel like it's moving on its own. I apologize. So essentially, we have this guiding document that's already telling us that we need to be planning for resiliency. So one of the first steps that we took in order to start doing this was last year we completed this a sea level rise vulnerability assessment. And basically, using the UFGO Plan Sea Level Scenario Sketch tool, we identified transportation areas and essential infrastructure that are at risk for inundation. Inundation is essentially when you have full sea level rise, not nuisance flooding. That's your underwater 365. So we went, kind of at when do we get to that point? Another thing that has been going on during kind of consecutively was the Regional Resiliency Action Plan was being developed by the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. Staff served on the steering committee. All of our board members, committee members were invited to attend various workshops throughout the process, as well as also they reached out to all elected officials at the time. and public sector. It was a very wide group of people that were invited to participate. And basically the goals were to define resilience, outline goals and focus areas, and also create a matrix that would essentially guide everyone, not just government, not just elected officials, but nonprofits, public sector, the whole community into becoming more resilient. Now, sidebar, resiliency isn't just sea level rise. Yes, that's what we focus on with our vulnerability assessment. But resiliency is whether or not your community is resilient against disease outbreak or failing infrastructure or storm surge that we're all so familiar with. So this is definitely looked at resiliency from broad spectrum. It wasn't just sea level rise. Some of the highlights, there's a huge matrix in your agenda you're welcome to peruse, but I just wanted to give you some of the highlights. So sharing information and infographics, something we're already doing. Identifying and educating elected and non-elected officials and advocates. Planning of transit based on resources, jobs, dependency. Host public meetings in underserved communities, low-income communities. Discuss green infrastructure as an alternative. Consider future inundation and nuisance flooding on roadways. And also conduct causeway and bridge vulnerability studies. Those are just some of the brief action items that are included within the matrix. So what does this mean? So, one, FAST Act, we are already required to be planning for resiliency, but the Regional Resiliency Action Plan helps to outline what those next steps would be. So things such as including resiliency into our long-range transportation plan, state of the system, TIP, consideration of future projects, which is something that we're already actively doing, potential future studies, aiding and completing, so being a resource for other municipalities to use us and use our services while completing the Regional Resiliency Action Plan. And also currently staff is serving on a steering committee to form a Regional Resiliency Collaborative. So with that, I'll take any questions and seek approval of Resolution 19-16.
Thank you, Ms. Crom. Any questions for Ms. Crom?
I'd move to approve pending discussion.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Those in further discussion?
All right.
And, all right, so we need an approval for further discussion?
I think just approval of the plan.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. I didn't need a roll call on this, did I?
No.
Right? Okay, all right, just want to make sure. All right, so let's go to 6A, Intelligent Transportation System, the ITS Master Plan Update. Stephen Bostel.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. So back in 2015, we brought to the board for consideration our 2015 ITS Master Plan. And so what that document was is it was kind of a overview and summation of everything we need to do to move forward with maintaining our existing system and how to plan on to expand the system in the future. So show of hands, how many people are familiar with intelligent transportation systems? Perfect. So we're going to have a little overview today on, first I'm going to start to talk about transportation systems management and operations, and then I will give an overview of what ITS is. There's just a hint, there's some pieces of it in front of you. Do a little show and tell. If you have any questions about what any specific device is, feel free, and I think I know what they all are. And then I'll talk about our adopted master plan some more. And then I'll talk about what we need to do to prepare for autonomous and connected vehicles, because it's coming a lot quicker than we all kind of anticipated. And I'll have a video that'll explain that a little bit more in detail. And then I'll talk about why we need to do an update to our ITS master plan. And so Transportation Systems Management and Operations is a program based on actively managing the entire transportation network, measuring performance, and streamlining and improving the existing system by promoting effective cooperation, collaboration, and delivering positive safety and mobility outcomes to the traveling public. So in short, it's using what we have better rather than building more? How can we maximize our existing infrastructure? And so and ITS is an element of transportation systems management and operations. Other elements are signal retiming, active arterial management, event management, intersection control evaluation, traffic incident management, and the Road Rangers program. And so it's making its way around now. That's a pan-tilt zoom camera. So that's what the TMC operators use to look around and monitor the traffic. And so just an overview of ITS. It's defined by DOT as the application of advanced information communications technology to surface transportation in order to achieve enhanced safety and mobility while reducing the environmental impacts of transportation. And so they monitor and manage the traffic flow, reduce congestion, provide alternative routes to travelers, enhance productivity, and most importantly, save lives, time, and taxpayer money. And so there's a picture here that's all of the stuff inside of a traffic control cabinet. A lot of them have nice pretty wraps on them, so you don't get to see all this stuff inside. Again, there's different components of it. The one up by Madam Chair is the signal controller. That is what talks to all of the signals and lets it know when all these components feed back into it and let it know when cars are stopped and when the light needs to get ready to turn red and green and all that good stuff. And it's very important that all of this stuff works properly in order for it to do what it needs to, because all of our lives depend on this stuff to work. Set that back up on.
They said don't drop it because it's $5,000.
Yeah, that's an expensive one.
Handle with care.
And so some of the different components we've already talked about a little bit. The camera just made its way around into the eyes of the system. The dynamic message signs are the face of the system that gets all of the information back out to the travelers to try to give them information to make informed decisions. And then we also have the vehicle detection systems, which are the data gatherers. There's a picture there, that's a loop cut in the road. It can be a loop, it can be a camera up there by Mayor. So that camera can actually detect 4 legs in one intersection. And so it can do detection to let the signal know that cars are there, as well as do traffic counts and bicycle pedestrian counts if you buy like an extra piece to go with it. And so it's very efficient. It takes the place of 4 of those cameras laying on their side over there. And then so there's also the network and master hubs. So all of these things need to make their way back to the TMC, get all the information back to the operators. And so that's your fiber optic cable and your switches. There's a switch here in front of Commissioner Allender, just a little one. But it's all, again, important that they all work properly. And so all of this gets back to the Traffic Management Center, which allows the operators to disseminate information, make adjustments to the signal timings, inform law enforcement of what's going on. So all that the traveling public can get around safer and more efficiently. And so that's a picture of the District 5 Traffic Management Center now. They have a new one under construction, and it's very impressive and will be beneficial for all of Central Florida. And so the overall benefits of ITS are very impressive. The benefit cost ratio of our entire plan of the priority projects over 10 years was nearly $1 billion in economic savings to the public for the full $100 million price tag if it was to be implemented over the 10 years. So, and that all comes from reduced travel delays and value of time and fuel savings. And then we also have reduced costs and delay of freight and transit. And we have improved real-time management of incidents, special events, and work zones. And overall, more improved safety and reduced secondary crashes. And we also get the environmental improvements in there as well. And so that's just a brief overview of what ITS is in general. Does anybody have any questions before I go on any further? All right, perfect.
I have questions.
Yes.
You don't want to go without. How many cities participate in this program?
So we have 4 maintaining operators in Brevard County, Titusville, Brevard County, Melbourne, and Palm Bay. So they're the main operators of signal control equipment. Brevard County does the bulk of it. So most of the cities contract with them to take care of their stuff.
Ah, okay.
And I believe the port's looking to do the same.
I think so.
And then so our 2015 adopted master plan evaluated all the existing systems in Brevard County. We got a lot of new infrastructure with the stimulus funds back in 2010 or so, and so our system grew very rapidly. And so we needed a plan to put in place to determine the future needs and formulate implementation plans for future development and maintenance, because this stuff isn't like a traditional road project where it gets built and it's good for 30 plus years. If we're lucky, this stuff has to be regularly maintained. Wasps build nests in front of the cameras, they have to be cleaned, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of. And so the overall report comes up with recommendations on the future, system-wide implementation methodology, and most importantly, an operations and maintenance plan. How do we take care of all this stuff and keep it up and running? And so here's an overall very busy map that was developed and part of the plan. This is a map of all the existing systems as well as some proposed expansion. Brevard has a very robust system. It's one of the most comprehensive in Central Florida. But there is still some work that we need to do to keep it up and running because it is so large. And there is some room for expansion as well. And that's all prioritized in the plan. And so a lot's been done since 2015. I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are some new projects that have been submitted for expansion. Babcock from Apollo to Palm Bay Road in Melbourne, 192 from Dairy Road to US 1, US 1 from University to Babcock, and also State Road 3 on Merritt Island. They're all new projects that have been submitted, and they're working their way through the process to get constructed. And these have a pretty quick turnaround time too, as well as far as transportation projects go, where a lot of us are used to 10 to 20 years for a project to get implemented. These can get done relatively quickly within 1 to 5 years, and that's like lightning speed in our world. And then so what all of this has done, this robust network that we have, is actually getting us prepared for autonomous and connected vehicles. There's a lot of unknowns right now, but all of the people that I've spoken with about how to get prepared is to continue to build your communications network, fiber optic cable, and maintain your existing system, and to continue to maintain your system so that people can regularly and easily navigate your roadways, because the cars also rely on pavement markings and all of that. And so right now we have a robust system, but we're getting to the point where we're going to have a bunch of other things that want to talk to our system. We're already getting requests from manufacturers that want our signal data. And so we'll have trains talking to the system and back and forth, and the cars will be talking to each other. So there's even more stuff coming than just the stuff around this table. And so that will translate into the need for more maintenance and operations. And so I have a little video here that'll tell you a little bit more about autonomous and connected vehicles.
Since the motor wagon was first patented by German inventor Karl Benz in 1885, inventors have been continually seeking to build a better, faster, safer, and more convenient automobile. The inventions of modern cruise control in 1948, adaptive cruise control in the late 1990s, and the lane keep assist system in the mid-2000s were major steps to automate driving. Fast forward to today, and we are reaching technological feats previously only possible in science fiction films. We own personal computing devices, small enough to fit into our pockets, and yet many times more powerful than the computer system used to send man to the moon. As technology advances and integrates more into our lives, it's also advancing and integrating into our personal vehicles and our transportation systems, improving your quality of life. Connected and autonomous vehicles, or CAVs, with automated systems able to safely operate your vehicle, whether you're in the car or not, will soon be driving on our roadways. The Florida Department of Transportation recognizes the vast changes that these new technologies will have on our roadways and systems, and wants to proactively plan and build for these future transportation technologies. The implementation of CAVs will change the way we travel and the very roads we travel on. CAVs are capable of sensing and quickly reacting to their environment via external sensors, GPS, internet connectivity, and their connection to other vehicles and infrastructure. Radar and LiDAR technology, along with ultrasonic sensors and video cameras, create a 360-degree visual of the automobile's surroundings. These sensors detect lane lines, other vehicles, curves in the roadway, pedestrians, buildings, and any other obstacles. All of this data comes together and is processed at the vehicle's central processing units, much like how our brains control our bodies to let us change lanes, or even slam on the brakes to avoid a collision. The computer-controlled reactions will be much quicker than a human driver, and a computer will never get distracted or tired. When CAVs make up most of the vehicles on the roads, crashes caused by human error will be virtually eliminated, which has consistently accounted for over 90% of all accidents over the last 30 years. CAVs traveling on connected highways will be able to do so more safely and efficiently by having the first vehicle communicate and lead following vehicles. Trucks benefit from this connected vehicle technology by allowing them to travel in small groups, which is known as truck platooning. The amount of space between platooning trucks or passenger cars, known as headway, can be safely reduced, which allows a more consistent traffic flow. Platooning reduces congestion as vehicles travel at a more constant speed with less stop and go, which results in fuel savings, safer driving, and reduced CO2 emissions. The same roadway in the future will accommodate more vehicles and operate more efficiently. At intersections, these emerging technologies will also mean benefits to bicyclists and pedestrians, with CAVs communicating with traffic lights and crossing signals. Connected infrastructure will improve safety and make these local roadways more convenient and enjoyable to travel on. Another benefit that is particularly resonant for Florida's citizens is the ability for those who are either disabled, too young, or too old to have mobility independence. Just think how happy your grandmother will be to run errands on her own again. To prepare for this future, the Florida Department of Transportation has partnered with Florida Polytechnic University and industry collaborators to develop a large-scale test facility in Polk County called SunTrax that will offer unique opportunities for the testing of emerging transportation technologies in safe and controlled environments. SunTrax's 2.25-mile-long track will provide an opportunity for high-speed road testing, while the 200-acre infield will allow for the testing of a multitude of different technologies related to CAVs. The entire site would be a connected environment for testing vehicle-to-infrastructure and vehicle-to-vehicle communications. SunTrax is uniquely poised to become a central hub for the research and development of these state-of-the-art technologies. As this technology matures, the Florida Department of Transportation will continue to plan for and test CAV implementation through SunTrax and our statewide facilities. By anticipating this technology now, we will be better prepared for the future by building smarter roadways that can accommodate these vehicles of tomorrow.
Alright, so that video summed it up a lot better than I could. A lot of great visuals, and the SunTrax test site is going to be very important to the entire state. It's already under construction, and I believe is set to open in the next year or so. It's got several phases, but it'll be really good for all of Florida. A lot of vehicles are already out on the road, so Teslas are out there driving around and using the infrastructure that's out there already. But we have companies like Audit and a couple others that are looking to receive the signal, phasing, and timing data that come from those controllers and display the information on the dashboard so that drivers will know how long the light's going to be red for, so they can turn around and yell at their kids or check their phone or whatever else. And then it'll also let them know that if they go maybe 5 miles under the speed limit, they'll get every green light, which is contrary to how most people think right now. And we have Google's autonomous vehicles that they're looking at testing in several different cities around the countries that they're out there in a lot of places already. And I've heard that Orlando might be one of their sites that they're looking at in the future. And usually things that start up in Orlando tend to spread their way outward to the rest of us. And then so, if you haven't heard me a couple of times, I've had operations and maintenance quite a few times already. So it's very important. One of the things that came out of our master plan was staffing analysis. And what we found is that Brevard County, probably in total, all the agencies probably need about 20 additional people just to take care of what we have today. This signal technicians and ITS operators, it's a very specialized field. It's hard to find people that are willing to work in the government sector because they can make a lot more in the private sector right now. And then also once we get them trained in the private sector, they can take that training and go make double in some of the private sector jobs. So it's a bit of a challenge to keep them staffed locally. So that's something we're working through now and that you all can try to help out with as well. And so adequate staff equals greater safety and security. Every time we talk about ITS, we have to mention the cybersecurity and all of the issues posed with that, because all of this stuff, all these computers, are all vulnerable to cybersecurity. So we need to make sure we have our staffing taken care of so that we have a secure network and safe network. And so the 10-year challenge has been going around on social media. This is our Traffic Management Center's 10-year challenge. It started out as a little office, one guy, a few computer monitors back in 2009. And now we're up to a double-wide cubicle. So the C in RTMC is for cubicle. But it's gotten bigger. They're doing a good job in there. But we're getting to the point where we're going to need something a bit more substantial to keep pace with everything that's coming. And so we're also in our ITS master plan identified the need for a larger traffic management center. And so Brevard County actually has a site proposed for a traffic management center. It's next to Holy Trinity on Pineda Causeway. And it was one of our top priorities in the master plan that allow for better agency coordination. All the agencies in Brevard County could get under one roof, work on event management. We're having a lot more space launches. There's a lot of traffic at the port on the weekends with all the cruise ships. And we have a lot of festivals, a lot of activity in our downtowns. We just really need a space where our operators can come together and plan for traffic and manage the traffic better for those events. And this would be a good site for that. It was also recommended that the TPO office be co-located in the TMC because planning for operations is really our future of transportation planning. We've just about gotten all of our roads planned in Brevard County. There's not a whole lot of new ones that can be built. It's very expensive to widen our existing ones, so it only makes sense to make plans to operate what we have more efficiently. And so there's a number of regional things going on that we're staying connected with in preparing for autonomous and connected vehicles. There's a Central Florida Transportation Systems Management and Operations group that meets. All the TPOs from District 5 go there and cities and discuss new ideas and challenges. And the Central Florida Automated Vehicles Partnership, which we've just been invited recently to become a part of. There'll be a resolution coming before you all in the coming months to support that. That's a group of agencies, and NASA is one of them, to take a look at what we need to do to be better prepared and actually have some test areas for these vehicles to be in our area. And so with all of this being said, all of the changes in technology just over the past few years, it's time for us to update our master plan. And so we'll be working on our scope to develop that and have that come before you for consideration in the next couple months. And so there's some unprecedented partnerships that are happening, which just expresses the need for this even more. Who would have thought Ford and Volkswagen would be partnering on electric vehicles and self-driving cars, and even BMW and Mercedes? These are huge rival companies that are partnering and throwing their tremendous resources into these technologies. And so the overall goal is to maximize existing infrastructure to provide an accessible, safe, reliable, efficient, and secure transportation system for all users. And there's some good quotes in there that I found from some very noteworthy people that you can take a look at that ties in well with safety and efficiency as well. And so here's some things you can do to help get prepared. So locally, we all need to place a greater emphasis on operations and maintenance. So any chance you can, please do that. We need to work on getting more people. You can support the development of the regional traffic management center so we can all coordinate better. And start considering land use changes, density changes possibly because people want to walk and bike more. And start picking for pick-up drop-off areas because we already have problems with Uber and Lyft now dropping people off in the middle of the road. Our developments are going to need places for them to pick up and drop off people in a safer place. And then also planning for charging areas. Right now they might look like the picture on the left for our vehicles that we have now. But in the future, the autonomous vehicles will just pull over a charging station and charge wirelessly. So if you have big parking garages, it might be a good time to think about how you might be able to do something like that. Maybe have Uber and Lyft pay to charge in your parking garages if less people are parking there. So just some things to start thinking about. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen? Commissioner Lober.
As far as the firmware and the software upgrades for the products that you have that are deployed, do you have to be on site to do that, or can you do a lot of that remotely?
They can do a lot of it remotely, but before that can be done, they have to each be set up physically with hands-on properly so that they can be connected back to their central system.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Ms. Goss?
Madam Chair, 2 questions. One, the jobs. Are they mostly engineering, or is there room for vocationally trained workers?
There's room for both. So there's opportunity to start at entry level as a signal technician, and their first tool might be a shovel, and they could work their way all the way up. And if they have the aptitude and the interest to be trained and learn some of the more technical parts of it.
So it's not necessarily an engineering degree.
Well, there's different layers. So like
Yeah.
if the TMC operator, if they're making signal timing changes, absolutely needs to be an engineer. But as far as the signal technicians out in the field, no, it can be vocational.
Okay, and my second question is, as you estimate the needs of population, the number of cars, when we take into account electric vehicles and their lifespan of 500,000 miles versus our current vehicles or our combustion engines at 200, 250, and add that to a sharing economy or more of a sharing economy, do we anticipate, do we still have, has that been included in your model when you consider how many cars are going to be on the road in the future?
Not yet. There's still been a lot of unknowns as we move forward, and that's something we'll look at as part of our plan update. Because, like I said, just 4 years ago, there was the stuff that I'm talking about now was barely even a blip on the radar. And so it's changing so fast that we constantly have to be looking to see what the latest research is. So we'll definitely look into that in our next update.
And just to say, I mean, the reason that interests me so much is because there are several big investments in parking lots and major.
And we still have a while, so the connected vehicle will be here, before full autonomous, really. So it'll help people make better decisions. So we still have some time.
All right. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I just wanted the board to be aware at the MPO, we had a great presentation on autonomous vehicles, and they're using them in the villages now and testing them now, so they're coming a lot sooner than we think, so we need to be ready as municipalities and a board for that. So great presentation, I appreciate it.
Yeah, in fact, we're supposed to be scheduling a field trip to watch this. All right, anyone else? Mayor Johnson.
Yes, first I'd like to say it's a great presentation. It's great to see the things that are being improved and updated and so forth. I think it's great for our county in general. The second is a more personal question I have for, I guess, the chair.
Yes.
That has been bugging me for a while, and this may not be the appropriate place, but speaking of all this updated equipment, can we make a requisition to get that 24-inch cathode ray monitor that we can't read, we can't see, and serves very little purpose? I know we have that screen, that's great for the presentations in some cases, but when we're looking to see if we're on the right page, I can't even read this screen. So.
Okay. I think Commissioner Lober may have your answer.
I do. I've already spoken with Jeff McKnight about it, and the talk is either to replace that with something that's flat there, or alternatively to suspend it from the ceiling.
I just would like it something that's made in this century.
I'm with you on that, and I'll check again with him to see where he's at with it, but it's already been brought up to him.
But, you know, I would like to, I mean, I don't know about the rest of the board, but if we have it in the ceiling, that's going to block the audience. So if we have it here, that would be great.
When I discussed it with him, he even talked as one alternative, and I don't know this is by any means final. If we don't do it that way, another alternative is to have 3 set up more or less in a triangle in the center, but the question is whether it would look awkward and whether it would cause problems with videoing it from where the cameras are now. So I'll
I think just a slightly larger flat screen, which has more resonance on it, and we can actually read. That's sparkle.
Yeah, I told him even with my glasses it's tough for me.
Was that me, by the way?
All right. That is good for you, but for us here,
you're right.
I can't see anything.
I understand. And again,
that's right.
That's an alternative. But over here, we have to turn around. I'm not sure they can read that either. I can only say a solution to that would be to make this table different, but I don't think we want to do that. But it would, I think 90% of the people here, it would improve the situation.
Maybe when they have the new control center by, that he's talking about, that could be designed to accommodate whatever.
I think about $200 flat screen would be excellent in there.
Worst case, I'll bring one of my own, put it in here.
I'll chip in.
All right, very good. Yeah, Georgiana.
Thank you, Stephen. I just want to say this is very exciting. This is the way we plan for transportation in the future is going to be totally different. It's going to look so much different. And, you know, incorporating this new technology into our long-range transportation plan, these are all things that are being talked about statewide. It's changing faster than we can keep up with it, but we can't keep building new roads and adding and widening roads. The funding is just not there, so this is a huge bang for the buck. And with the bike ped issue and fatalities and serious injuries that we have, this will be a game changer for the future. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, even accidents like T-boning, to me, it would avoid that. The most dangerous accident.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ms. Gibson.
I'm sure there has, but it's just for myself from the cybersecurity side. Is there? Do you have any other entities working with you guys to deal with the infrastructure and make sure that there aren't any attacks on that, and also maybe considering bringing in the police department and that type of stuff, and knowing how to react in situations where there are situations. So training for our local police officers and stuff to deal with new situations that would arise if there's a hacking situation or a security
Right
situation.
now, we've been pretty good because right now our system is isolated. It's its own fiber network. It's not connected directly to the internet, so it's pretty hard to get into unless they physically plug into it. But that's something that's being looked at on a district level too. It's a big concern to FDOTs. So we're working with them. They have some programs in place, and they also have additional expertise on hand to help solve issues like that come up, that they let the locals use.
All right, very good. All right, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
It was a great presentation.
Thanks.
Item 6B is the State Road A1A rectangle rapid flashing beacons, RRFB. It's DOT is going to present. It was Brenda Young, but now we have Chad from DOT.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Chad Lingenfelder. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm a bicycle and pedestrian safety specialist, and so thank you for the opportunity to present to you this afternoon. Okay, and I think I have 15 minutes. Is that what I have, Madam Chair? Okay.
Well, yeah,
I'll
yes.
be brief, but I can go back.
Okay.
So that's at
Is that
at your
agreeable
request.
with everyone, or? Okay. All right.
So if I go too fast, I'm not in a rush. But I'm just trying to respect the agenda. So what I'm going to speak to you today about, and Brenda mentioned or had this presentation with the CAC and TAC, TTC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, TAC. You got it.
They're all different TPOs, but made this presentation on Monday, and she had a conflict today, and I'm happy to explain this. Brenda's in the what I call more planning side of the house, and I'm in the traffic engineering, traffic operations side of the house. Same side of the house, so your ITS plans and that usually go through. So what I'm here to talk to you today about is what are called RRFBs, or rectangular rapid flashing beacons. These are flashing beacons that are mounted with warning signs to add conspicuity to the signs. So they are activated by pedestrians. They do not require cars to stop, but they do, or their intention is to alert the motorist, because a flashing beacon that's on all the time fades with the landscape. But these beacons are about as bright as a tow truck light bar, and that tells the driver, I've never seen that beacon on before. There was a change in this condition. We've seen crash reductions 50% and higher of these types of crashes, of pedestrians hit in crosswalks. And so they are an added feature. Now what we've done, and this all started in District 7, St. Petersburg. That's where over 10 years ago they deployed the first RRFBs. And so we've gone back there to see how they've deployed them and what's changed in the area. So we recently had a field trip to Gulf Boulevard in on the other coast. And we've come back to this area, and we are deploying. These are the areas that we are deploying RRFBs in Brevard County. And they're all listed there, and I believe you have that in your agenda package. And then this is our effectiveness evaluation area. So there soon will be, yet this year, 18 RRFBs within this stretch. And so this is it's kind of an old feature, but new to A1A. Old feature meaning we've had the RFBs for a while. There's a little lawsuit that got everybody kind of hung up on them and couldn't deploy them, and then now we're back to using them. Lawsuit was regarding a patent, so don't worry about any of the other issues that came up with it. So these 6 RRFBs are going to be are being installed now. These are under construction now in Satellite Beach area, and then in the Atlantic, Indian Harbor area has these RRFBs being deployed. With that, we do education. There was a portion of this tip card that was there's a portion of it in your handout, in your packet. But what it does is it's two-sided. It tells what bicyclists and pedestrians are to use, how to use it, and then this side how motorists are to use it. And so when we're out at our campaigns, including the Daytona International Speedway or smaller events like Founders Day in Melbourne Beach, we are talking about that these features are coming. And so this is how you use it. please do not hit the button and continue your stride across the roadway. Please hit the button and see if it's safe enough, if cars are slowing. If they're not slowing, and it's also against state law to jump out in front of a car. It's also against state law to hit a pedestrian in a crosswalk. The only difference is, did they jump out in front of the car, or did the car have enough time to stop? And that's kind of how they figure out who had the right-of-way. So you shall not jump in front of a car unless you give them time to stop or distance to stop. That basically how the statute reads. It's a stop state, so you shall stop for a pedestrian within a crosswalk. So here's a variety of not just us physically talking with folks, but through different forms of media. I hope you've heard Z88.3 or NPR or Channel 13. We always try to splash, even on the newspapers in the area or their internet sites. We'll have banners that say "Alert today, alive tomorrow," "Alert tonight, alive tomorrow," which is talking about being more dressed more appropriately to be seen in non-daylight hours. This slide, I don't know if Brenda called it this, but I call it this, leaving money on the table slide. The starred areas are the cities where we're deploying RRFBs. Only the city of Palm Bay and Brevard County Sheriff's Office take advantage of funds from our central office to be paid to enforce bicycle and pedestrian laws with overtime hours. So these are areas that we've identified by need or seeing where the crashes are occurring for bicycles and pedestrians. And so it's that's where the problem is, or we could probably use more enforcement in these areas. So we'd love to see the city of Melbourne, Titusville, Cocoa Beach, we would love to see those cities apply. But also the cities at the top of the list are getting RRFBs and may need to do some enforcement, probably with some education first, but some enforcement. I've helped these locations where they're deployed 2 weeks earlier. I'm out there talking to the pedestrians. I let the police officers talk to the drivers, but hand them information like this saying, you realize this is a new feature and this is how you're supposed to use it. And then 2 weeks later, come back with more citations and let's just say more, maybe a written warning where they had a verbal warning before.
We just started with City of Melbourne, I think.
Yes. Yesterday. The Melbourne PD hosted the mandatory training and invited a lot of the municipality or the enforcement agencies here in Brevard County. So we were excited to hear that. So
as we are, absolutely.
Okay.
Now we are doing, as I identified on the map, an area of effectiveness. We did the before data collection on President's Day weekend, so about a month ago. But we will be, after these are installed, we'll be going through and looking at their effectiveness. We know what the national average is for effectiveness, but we want to see how they're effective in Brevard County. This is my last slide. Just my contact information, Brenda's contact information, some resources available to you like alerttodayflorida.com. I'd be happy to pass these tip cards around, and we have a YouTube channel that shows this being used, and a former FHP trooper describing how it's used, and maybe talks a little bit, basically implies what happens if you don't obey. So a little bit of education in there as well.
All right.
So be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for, okay, go ahead, Mayor Johnson.
We have one of these in our downtown area. I think maybe it's somewhat of more of a hybrid, but you do push a button and the lights will flash. One of the problems I have personally seen with this is that this is 2 lanes going one way northbound. Yes. A car will stop in the first lane closer to where the button is pressed, and it may be the type of car that's somewhat larger, and a car comes the other way and doesn't stop. In the meantime, these people are not jumping out. They're walking across, figuring that nobody is, those cars are going to stop. One stopped already. I've seen a car go around that one,
Yes.
and these people were very close to being hit. How do you remedy that? And I'll make a suggestion that there's signs in front of school lights that stop when flashing. But there's no sign there, as you say, on these type things that indicates you have to stop. So consequently, the decision is being made by some people to continue, even though, and they may not see the people in the crosswalk.
Right.
So it's a dangerous situation, and I think it can be resolved rather simply, and I'd like you to consider that.
Resolve it how? Because we've observed the same thing.
Putting up a sign that says stop when light is flashing.
Okay, well, this is a yellow hazard beacon, so it's not a red flashing light. School zones have when flashing for a reduced speed limit regulation.
Right.
So that's not stopping either.
We have a yellow flashing light, and why would it be inappropriate to put the sign? I'm not following.
Well, we do have signs that have a stop bar that say stop here for pedestrians. But it does. But the light cannot stop a vehicle. Or running a flashing light doesn't stop a vehicle. It's not like overtaking a school bus, which is illegal because if it has a stop deploy. A possible way is with enforcement to catch the motorist who is overtaking those vehicles. Because you're right. If I'm standing on the side of the road and I have a delivery van stopping for me and I step out, either one of us didn't see each other in a smaller car overtaking that delivery van. So we have decided not to deploy these on roadways with more than 4 lanes. And we do require a refuge in the middle. So we're trying to just get across 2 lanes at a time.
Well, this is only 2 lanes.
2 lanes total?
Yeah.
Oh,
and they're both going one way.
So they're passing, well, we have a no passing zone before and after these areas as well.
US 1 is divided into 2 lanes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's a one-way pairs.
One southbound,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I have another solution for that.
I'm
But
sorry?
It's not RRFBs. It's time to two-way your streets. It's time we two-way the streets.
It's US 1, we have 2 lanes on Gibson,
yes.
What's the name of the street again? I forget.
Washington.
No, on South, not South Washington, on the other side there. Hopkins.
Yeah.
On Hopkins, a block away from each other, one goes south, the other goes north, both being 2 lanes.
Correct.
In this case, there's no light over there. There is a light. There is a red and green and yellow light, the standard light. Over here, we put in, we asked to have them put in. We had stop signs and all kinds of things, and nobody was doing anything. It was a marked improvement. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's still dangerous. And I would think maybe attaching with all this high tech, maybe you attach it when they press the light that it says stop when lights are flashing. I mean,
state law is you stop for a pedestrian at crosswalk. That's what triggers in our state law.
Sir, they're not doing it.
Well,
So
that's up to the police to enforce then.
If you could put police there 24 hours a day, it might be very effective.
It may be an inappropriate location for an RRFB. If we're
Well,
giving a false sense
it was worse
of
without
security.
it. So we
It was
like.
worse without it. So we're all trying to make incremental improvements.
Yes, and we are to the point
But-
of
but the
having
one-way-
people's lives in danger, and I can't see why you resist this.
Well, the one-way streets is the issue.
I would think that's an improvement from any other thing, because the problem is very succinct. It's what you described, that we have one car, one vehicle, people walking across can't see a vehicle on the other side. In some case, and this was one case I saw too, this little car just decided to go on that side. Those people were about to step into them. They weren't jumping, they were
Maybe your solution is requiring pedestrians actually cross at a stoplight.
I'm sorry?
If your solution, if you're having pedestrians get hit, is to have them actually
Well, they
cross the
took out,
stoplight.
FDOT took out the stoplight there, which was there for years. And the ultimate solution would be to put a stoplight back.
Right.
But they refused to do that.
I think this may answer your question, and I may be misperceiving this. If I am, please correct me. But is my impression essentially correct in that DOT does not want to essentially mandate that a motorist stop if there's not a lawful basis to stop the motorist, and that's why there's resistance to putting those signs up?
These are warning beacons.
Right.
So they do not have, in the Uniform Traffic Code or the Florida statutes, they do not exhibit a condition by themselves that a motorist shall stop.
So I'm trying to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So essentially what you're saying, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, is you're not going to put some traffic control device in place that's going to direct the motorist to do something they're not obligated to do, in this case, to stop.
We will not post a sign that says stop when flashing. We can't.
Because there's no lawful basis to instruct that motorist to stop.
Correct, but we do place signs that say stop here for pedestrians.
Okay.
And that is 40 feet in advance of the crosswalk.
Okay, I think that answers it. Thank you.
And well, Judge admit, in that area of US 1, 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Hardly anybody goes through 30 miles an hour through downtown Titusville.
Yeah, well, we do put police out there, and they do, but they can't be there all the
Now,
time.
they're further on down. I know where they are.
We got his tag number, okay.
I know where to slow down. Oh, no, I do. But a lot of it, I mean, so it's just people don't pay any attention to things.
You know, I
mean, I know those flashing yellow lights.
You'll
that
be
you're talking
next.
about, they're on both sides of the street. When I see them, it says you're supposed to slow down and see if somebody's crossing the street, but
Okay, but we have a problem where somebody someday is going to get run over. I have no doubt of it. My nature is to try to solve it rather than make a law that says don't run over anybody. Apparently, we have that law already in place.
maybe a mannequin on the side of the street on one of the benches, dressed like a policeman, would cause people to either stop or slow down.
The first 3 times they pass it, possibly. You'd be surprised how clever people are.
Oh, I know.
Well, I have
All
a
right.
question or comment.
Ms. Gibson.
Is, don't you have, and because I'm from Satellite, obviously, so we fought a really big battle, so I just want to go on to say that I'd like to thank Mike Shannon with FDOT. He's put up with a lot from us, with lots of emails from me personally, and I know we've probably made his life miserable, so we appreciate the work that staff and Mike has done. But, you know, maybe to take into consideration that there's different types of flashing beacon lights, and maybe for different situations. I do know that we've had some discussions with you guys about the ones that flash yellow and then flash red, and maybe in certain instances where it's a little bit more precarious or a little more dangerous, maybe consider adding those in, because even though they're not legally obliging people to stop, but maybe going from yellow to red might be a little bit more, I can't think of the word right now. I've had a kid with the stomach flu, so my brain's not working so well, but might make people more conscientious of stopping.
All right, so, but I wasn't even aware they had a flashing red. So if they have a flashing red, wouldn't that require them to stop?
Yeah, so,
There was
I'm sorry, Commissioner, Mayor?
Yes.
Councilwoman.
Councilwoman. What the Councilwoman's referring to is a product that was called Hawk, but now we call them pedestrian hybrid beacons. We have not deployed them in District 5 yet.
Oh, okay.
We have our first deployments coming online probably yet this year. I believe they'll be built in the Orlando area. They're for 6-lane divided highways typically. But just for a little history, Satellite Beach saw a resurfacing project coming along and got a study going and developed where these mid-block crosswalks should be. And so we somewhat halted that project, got the mid-blocks caught up to that project and built as you see. And then I think I might have gotten the call of, where's the conduit? Conduit for what? The RRFBs. Well, we don't need conduit anymore for RRFBs. But we decided, and we right away went to Gulf Boulevard and looked at their effectiveness, and then we're in the middle of the patent lawsuit, but we've now deployed, they're now going up right now, our RRFBs. They may graduate to a pedestrian hybrid beacon. They may graduate to a full-fledged signal. We don't have the volumes crossing the roadway to literally warrant it. There are traffic engineering manuals that tell us when you should graduate from an RFB to a PHB to a full-fledged signal, and we just don't have the volumes there yet. It took 20 persons per an hour, and we were liberal with that, to say, okay, these RFBs may be deployed here, because that's the direction we have from Federal Highway Administration to use them.
Okay, so Mayor Johnson wants a light.
Sorry.
Mayor Johnson wants he wants his light back, so where is it? I mean, inventory somewhere?
That would be the simplest solution.
You got the colors right here. Just take these. Take right there.
We got all the parts here.
Take your lights right here. It's
All
right
right,
here.
so there's the green and the yellow and the red. We can put something together.
We'll get it mounted for you if you like. Actually, we've offered to do some things like that.
Well, we've
They
had the
refuse.
same request from Eustis, which also has one-way pairs, and they're looking at getting away with going to all two-way streets again. But we had a request to look at a signal war analysis at a location where it sounds like a very similar location. We're going to do RRFBs in the interim. So we'd be happy to evaluate the location again for a signal.
I would encourage
Okay.
you to do that.
Well, please give me the location.
It's
or-
on US 1 at the Julia Street crossing.
Julia Street.
For
On the
southbound?
Washington side, northbound.
Northbound at Julia.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Northbound on Washington, Julia is east and west.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
it's
sorry.
northbound Washington at Julia.
It's the corner of Julia and South Washington.
I think they got his tag
In the
number still,
middle of
right?
downtown,
Well, they
where
need
all
to
the
be there
people go
during the week
across.
instead of on Sunday after church.
What, kid?
I said the priests need to be there during the week instead of Sunday after church.
Maybe we'll put a
But-
priest out there.
That could be.
But I will say that I crossed our light today going to City Hall, and I don't think I would have been here today. I mean, sometimes they just don't pay attention,
Yeah.
and they go right through, so.
In front of Melbourne?
Yeah,
Melbourne City Hall?
the Melbourne City Hall.
I don't think anything is perfect.
For somebody with
Certainly,
previously
it's got to be better than
Yes,
last.
we had our deputy city manager years ago got hit, so it wasn't major, but that really started putting one in there, because before, DOT didn't want to put one in, so.
I just don't want to wait till someone gets hurt, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it becomes, oh, let's do something.
Well, we're always using either new design standards or new signals or new types of equipment. And even at the rebuilds of Waverly and what's the signal to the east of that?
Are you talking about Strawbridge? Or, yeah?
So as we're rebuilding these locations, we're putting in larger pedestrian areas.
Okay.
At times APS, which is accessible pedestrian signals, which is the voice activated, but voice commanded, where it says wait, now can cross.
I've heard those, yeah.
So we're looking to deploy those when we come back through. I mean, this is like the department and their road system is like a home improvement project. We're constantly coming back and making improvements whenever we touch the area again. So.
I think it's Hickory
If you
Street.
would look into that, I would really appreciate it. If you get it done, I might get a statue put up for you.
I will pass the study request along. All right, sir. Anything, I'd be happy to pass these
Anyone
down. You
else?
can take them to your city hall or keep them in your folder. But these are what we use to educate the folks. If you certainly want us to come to like I said, Founders Day in Melbourne Beach, some of your events, we're happy to put up our tent and talk the talk of watching out. We each have a role in saving lives out there. And drivers have a very big object they can use to harm a pedestrian.
Yes. I do have a sign-up sheet to speak on this item, and it's Scott Ellis. Thank you, Chad. If I have to bring you up, be ready. What?
Scott Ellis. Mayor, the only solution to that is to remove it. These whole things have a faulty design. It's an incurable defect and you cannot fix it. As long as you put a stop sign out there, you will have people killed. I will speak as a road crossing expert and not as an FDOT expert. Myself and my siblings, we grew up on Sarno Road in O'Galley. Back and forth, 7-Eleven, Magic Market, Working Man's Friend, Sable. All four of us are still alive today because we understood the simple concept, you look both ways and you don't cross the road till nobody's coming. That's how you cross the road. You don't count on a flashing yellow light or a pitiful little stop sign that you have 1.5 seconds to stop at 45 miles an hour to stop that car. What you just talked about, Mayor, we had a kid got killed on Post Road, exact same thing. Anybody that uses this one out here, I came over for Jennifer's retirement 2-3 weeks ago. I try to avoid using that crosswalk. As I came up, one lady saw me, inside lane. She sees me, she stops. I just wave her through. Please do not stop. While she stopped, 2 cars pass on the right side. One turns right in here to the government center. So they're not stopping, and they're still coming. If you go to the ones on A1A, they're too fast. There's nothing you can do. The sign needs to be pedestrians, warning, cross when no cars. Do not walk across the damn street just because you think a flashing light or a little tiny stop sign is going to save you. That's why if you want to cross with a light, you cross with a real light. You don't cross with these setups. These things are nothing but death traps. If you look at them, they had the lady got killed down by the yellow dog on US 1 with the same layout. Right? It doesn't work. Maybe it works when you get autonomous cars because you catch a signal with a transmitter and a receiver. It does not work with eye contact. Oh, Mayor, you're dead on. You are exactly right.
Well,
and that's a
I agree
simple
with you
2-lane road that
100%.
you have there.
And the solution is a stoplight.
And you're low speed. Downtown Tightsboro is low speed.
Yes.
30 miles an hour.
Right. So, but if normally what you would cross, you would look both ways. In this case, you only got to look one because you cross over to your place to go eat once in a while. When nobody's coming, that's when you cross. I've never stepped in front of a car figuring they're going to stop for me because I'm in a crosswalk.
That's right.
Because I don't care what the law is. They only have to break the law one time and you're dead. Right? That's the penalty for their traffic violation is you are dead. And the whole design is a faulty design. And what you should do is rip these out everywhere they've been put in so far. And I truly mean that. Take them out. Go back to crosswalks where pedestrians look both ways and you cross when it's safe. These are not safe. They are by design not safe. They are a faulty design. The very core of the design is faulty. You cannot remedy it. You cannot expect people to pick up a little tiny stop sign coming down the road and know to stop in time. And if the truck is there, you can't see it. And out here, you can send anybody out here. Any of you are welcome to go out. Right out here is the exact same design. Right between here and the courthouse. Stop for pedestrian crosswalk. See how many times people stop and how many times they don't stop. And that's the issue. On a red light, people stop. They all stop at the red light. That's safe. That's where a crosswalk is signalized. These out here are very dangerous, and they bring people in. Particularly Satellite Beach. I'm sorry for Satellite Beach, but snowbirds come down, and they actually think people are going to stop. Right? If you're local, you know they're not going to stop. But,
I agree with him.
Right? But the snowbirds think people are going to stop. I saw one come back from Mom's house again over the weekend. And she's sort of staggering around on the road, doesn't know which way to go. I felt very bad. I stopped because I just figured they're lost and don't know. But it's very dangerous. And you're 45 miles an hour over there.
Which we're trying to get it lowered. So that's another conversation.
But that design, Post Road's only 35, where the guy got killed. He got killed.
Well, I think that's the difference between where
That's
you,
right.
because I grew up on A1A and we crossed A1A without stoplights
Right,
and
same
all
way
that,
we-
and we were safe. But the problem is, and I'm a runner, and I think we talked about this on Facebook, and I run even at stoplights, and I've almost been hit by countless cars at red lights because they don't stop for red lights
No,
either
they
anymore.
won't.
But that doesn't take away from what you're saying.
No.
I think it's important that the pedestrians need to be as accountable as the cars, and we need to teach people too. I mean, just because, I don't stop until all cars, I don't cross until all the cars are stopped.
Eye contact.
Eye contact, you know
contact.
you acknowledge them, so what we need to do is, it needs to be a dual, because I think they're there, and I know you don't like them. I have mixed
I hate
feelings
them.
about them. I have kids that I want them to be able to go to the beach and me not be scared for them to
Right,
be
but
with
you want
them
them to be
at
adults,
the time.
too.
But I want them to be adults, and I think there can be a balance, but we shouldn't have too much faith that the cars know we're there. And then also, our people need to be accountable for crossing the street, not wearing dark
Yeah.
clothing at night, because
Yeah.
we had 2 pedestrians
Oh.
get killed.
Well, the bums get killed all the time in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well,
Dark
they're not
clothing
in the
and night on
crosswalk.
Dark
bicycles.
clothing at night on bikes,
I mean,
no
y'all
lights.
laugh. I'm telling you, it's true.
No, it
I
is
leave that
true.
Melbourne courthouse a lot of times at night. They come down Magnolia, dark clothing, no lights. Babcock, dark clothing, no lights. I've seen one that was killed in front of the Sarno complex. I came by and they've got the sheet over him. He's dead. A couple years later, the one was actually still alive. He just got hit and stunned right in front of the farm stores up at Sarno and Croton. And we can't do anything about those pedestrian deaths because they're driving around stoned on their bicycles, and they just go across. And anybody here that drives around Melbourne, you know exactly what I mean.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the signal is.
Right. And they're on US 1, too.
But these are
so-
dangerous for sober people. And the problem is, if you've got a truck and I'm on foot, it might be your fault, but I'm dead.
I know, no, I agree with you. And I
Yeah.
think
It's just, and a lot of people are still driving that shouldn't be driving.
Yep.
I was saying we're fortunate. My mom's off the road. There's 4 of us here. We all take turns. We take care of all the driving for her. But there's plenty of people that are older than my mom. They're still on the road.
Yep. But you know
And
what?
not to count the people that are playing on their damn phone and not
That
paying
too.
attention to what they're doing.
I mean, I've seen it because I'm right there in downtown Melbourne, but it's, they don't hit the button, and it's like, oh my gosh. And so we need a balance, and we need education and law enforcement out
And
there.
you're fairly slow there, right by
Yes.
City Hall, almost like where Mayor Johnson's at, because it's constricted. And you're a little bit slower.
We're about
The last time the
35,
time was already done.
30, or is it 30? Okay,
But on a wide open road,
I know.
Well, not a lot of sidewalks either on the west side. That's another problem that we run
Yes.
into is connectivity, you know, on A1A along between the different pedestrian crosswalks. Because the one gentleman that got killed out in front of the Chabad,
that was strange. Yeah, he was trying to cross
well, he
over.
was dark clothing too, but he wasn't at a crosswalk and some of the
Yeah.
lights. I mean, there was a whole bunch of different things going on, but we petitioned for a stoplight there.
Right,
We
but
lost
but
them.
One
the
last
design on these
comment.
is faulty.
I'm sorry, I thought you were...
They should be removed and not increased.
Well, my point,
All right.
I'll make one last comment here, that I think a stoplight would be better than any other situation.
Absolutely.
Is it perfect? No, but it would be a much better situation than we have now, and that's why I'd like to, them to look into
Absolutely,
doing
Mayor,
that.
because you also don't hear the brakes squealing because someone stopped for the pedestrian, the person behind them did not expect you to come to a dead stop
Yeah, that happens.
in the middle of the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said up to.
And yours should be safe right there at Julia.
We would hope.
Should be.
I know it should be, but that's as slow as you're going to get for car traffic.
Okay.
Anyway, these are projected to put on Sarno Road too. I went to the FDOT meeting. They have a tendency that, well, our design is correct, therefore you just need to live with it. And I tell you, you can hand out all the informational brochures you want. It's not going to help if people don't pay attention when they're driving.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Ellis. All right, any other comments or discussion? All right, seeing none. Before we adjourn, again, we have the TPO Board, April 11th, 2019. Just remember to mark off, it was a wrong date on our agenda. And TAC, CAC, April 8th. And with that, no further items. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.